right, you lovely lot. The second, or maybe third, bestest way of fishing ever, the slider. Never covered it for winning ways, but I suppose the venues that we go to never really had the need to. But as I say, it's all about getting bites today. Jay's on his pole, getting one of chuck fishing to hand, whereas I've thought I'd come and do something obviously a little bit different. Not many people fish the slider, and it's a forgotten art form really, but it's just so good. When you get them fish queuing up, it's amazing. The beauty of it is you direct into the fish. You're not striking against a float like a waggler, obviously, that's fixed on your line with shot. You're going through the float and direct into the fish. So I'm going to say it, Rich, you don't really miss that many bites. Don't get me wrong, you're always going to miss bites, especially off roach, but usually on this, because you are fishing to such a big bulk, when the fish sort of, you know, obviously get your bait, go to swim away, they hook themselves against the bulk basically. It's dead simple, it's not complicated. I think a lot of people are put off by, they think it's complicated, slider fishing. What are you on about, slider fishing? What's your float doing, sliding up and down, this, that and the other? It's not complicated, folks. Trust me, if I can do it, there's hope for all of you, believe me. Right, so the basics then. So ideally, no less than a 13-foot rod. I'm using a medium rod today, actually, because, you know, we're fishing in deep water and you're punching pretty heavy floats out. I mean, this is a 3 SSG slider, which is probably, I'm going to say 4 or 5 gram floats. It's pretty heavy. And you need something with a bit of backbone, obviously, when you're striking into them fish, but more so for when you're casting. Let's start from the business end though. So, bigger reel than the norm that I'd normally use for my waggler fishing. This is sort of like a 3.5, 4,000 size. And main lines need to be thicker as well, folks, you know. None of like, I swear blind that 0.16, 0.18 at the most for my waggler fishing, obviously, because of the friction for your rod rings. Whereas for slider fishing, it needs to be a bit thicker, more robust. So 0.20, 0.22 sometimes, something like that. It needs to be a good, durable main line. Coming up to, also, let's go down to my float next. And as I said, we've got like a 3 SSG float on, which is sliding up the line. Sometimes I like to have a bit of a little tiny bead above the float, which will stop against a stop knot, which I'll come on to in a sec. But when the swivel's this small, it doesn't need to. I've got like a 0.26 diameter line on for me stop knot, so it's thick enough. It's not going to go through that little tiny swivel. And then the shots, I've got these in reverse. If Rich zooms in on them, so I've got 3 swan shot in a line, and then I've got, I think it's a treble A, might be a double A above them. But basically, I'm casting the float off that. I don't want that below it. I'm casting it, so it's acting like a bit of a buffer, if you like. And then look how simple it is. We've got that bulk there, which is what? I'm going to say 3 foot away from the hook. And then coming down here, we've got, now I've set this up because I've done a lot of slider fishing over the years, folks. Obviously, you know, especially in my England youth days. This is the Tangle, that's not even a word, Tangliest free, what can I say? It's the most, that's the one, Jay said it, it's the most prone to tangle way of fishing the slider that I've found. Basically,
that means it tangles lots.
Alright, so it's
least prone.
That's the one. It's the most least prone to tangle rig that you can get.
Oh, right.
The what?
Most least.
You know what I mean, folks. Stop putting me off, you. It's just because I took the mick out your camera. I still can't see his legs, folks. Right, so there I've got, if Rich zooms in, I've got anything from 6 to 8, number 8 shot. And then below it, you know, I always get confused on what these are. They're like them little hook changes, swivelly, rubbery, grommety things that you can just change your up lengths dead quick. I've got one of them on, and I like to use long up lengths. I've got anything from a 14 to an 18 inch up length. Reason for that is, basically, when that float goes under, when you're fishing on the bottom, you know the fish is going to be on. I've said it and I've said it again. But the other thing that I like to do as well is when plumbing up, you know, sometimes, most of the time, I'll put an SSG shot on my hook and plumb it up that way, exactly the same as what you do with a waggler. But occasionally, I like to put me SSG just above them shot there and then plumb up off that. And then obviously, that dictates how much line you're going to have off the bottom. Does that make sense? That makes sense, doesn't it? And then you just take it off your stop knot at the other end. That makes sense, doesn't it? I know what I'm talking about. Coming up to the stop knot, I'll go into these more depth actually. How can I get into that? Let me let a little bit of line out for you so I can get to that stop knot. Come on, come off the line. I'm going to get snagged up there, aren't I? There we go. Right, so where is he? So it's about, still going, we're probably in about, it's a little bit shallower than Jamie's Peg here. We're in about 16 foot of water. Now you zoom in on that, Rich. Now you'll see how long I've left them tag ends. A common mistake anglers make when they're fishing the slider is they'll trim them tag ends too short. Now what happens with that? They're stiff, sorry I swore at you. They're stiff like that, and obviously if you're having to wind it through your rod rings, which I am today, to get a good cast, they're going to stick through your rod rings. So that's why you want them minimum of 2 inches. I like to go sort of 3 or 4 inches so they're nice and supple when you're chucking it out. And it's just, as I said, it's just such an efficient way of catching fish. It's probably not the quickest, you know what I mean? You're going to catch quicker on what Jamie's doing, but trust me, this way of fishing is so enjoyable. I absolutely love it. Things you've got to consider, obviously, when we're coming onto the feeding is, in this depth of water, we want to keep the fish on the bottom, so it's little tiny balls of ground bait. But another style of slider fishing, which I'll probably talk about, is getting the fish when you're loose feeding. You know, loose feeding casters and maggots, setting it at a depth of sort of 6 to 8 foot in this depth of water when you get them competing. But for today, with how cold it is, them fish are going to be on the bottom, so I'm just going to be putting little tiny balls of ground bait in. Honestly, folks, give it a try. You will love it.
Right, Andrew. So this is like a lesson for me. Do you know,
Mate.
I'm genuinely, I think I fished the slider once in my life.
Have you?
Yeah.
Where was that?
It were old school when I used to go into these club ponds, a place called Raby Mere, years and years and years ago.
Proper deep like?
But well, commercials, like you say, you just don't need to, do you?
No.
It doesn't
There's
exist.
never any need for it whatsoever, mate.
No. But anyway, so it's the only way of fishing a running line in this depth, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
Of course, we could chuck a feeder and all that, which
I think potentially though, you know, obviously we loose feed them. Obviously, them fish later in the day they come off bottom and you catch them on a waggler. But you know, there's no chance with a fixed float you could cast a waggler in that depth of water.
No,
it's just
absolutely
not going to happen at all.
yeah, it's the only way of fit. What'd you say you've got here? About 16 foot.
Yeah, just over 16 foot, I'd say. But the trouble I've got, and you can see it now, I'm chucking at a tree that's, well, it's not opposite me, opposite over there, but chucking at a tree, but I'm on a slope. See,
Yeah.
we're getting a bite, Jay, we're getting a bite. Go on.
Right.
Are we on? He's on. It might be a leaf, actually. I don't think it's a
There ain't no
fish.
fish
Oh,
on
it's
the
a
end of
twig. It's a twig. But yeah, so I'm chucking at that tree, but I'm on such a, like, well, as you know, it's such a, like an incline, steep, that the
Yeah.
wind's blowing it away from me.
This would be perfect wind other way, wouldn't it?
Mate, if it was coming the other way, it'd be get
Tuck
ready,
into
Sam.
your slope, like I say, the slope's going down that way,
Oh.
as well as that way.
Get ready, mate. That's all we're saying.
It is. So anyway, going technical, but in fact,
Go
no,
on.
I want to talk about the slider, why its beneficial properties. So obviously you can't fish a normal waggler because
Nope.
it is too deep and you'd
Yeah.
need a 30-foot rod.
Yeah.
A waggler, a slider in preference to a feeder,
Yeah.
it just lets you see what's going on so much better, doesn't it?
It does, and I think you fish a lot quicker as well, though, Jay. Especially when it's raw. So even skimmers potentially, but you're definitely fishing a lot quicker.
Yes.
100%. And obviously you can keep in touch with them more. You know, how often when you feeder fishing, you know, you come back with a snotted maggot and that. Where's that going? Oh, it wasn't far off.
I like that.
You're coming back with like a snotted maggot and that, because obviously the fish are intercepting it on that final drop. Whereas
Yeah.
with this, you're seeing all that.
You're seeing your bites when they're happening instead of
And you can
missing them.
you can like obviously bring your knot down and shallow up and go for, yeah, boy. If they do come off bottom. But you see, remember me saying before when I was on your peg when you're getting one a chuck,
Yeah.
but how slow the bites are.
Yes.
Mate.
Same on this, isn't it? That's the depth, isn't it? It's just
Yeah.
that moving your bulk and you get that lovely.
Yeah, it's so good.
I think once the bulk starts moving, it makes the bite look better, doesn't it? Because
Yeah.
it's such a big bulk in
Yeah,
both
definitely.
the cases.
It might
But-
be a netter. Is it a netter?
Are you getting on net?
I'm going to net it for the cameras. First netter of the session. Look
What
at
is it?
that. It is a netter.
A beautiful roar.
Well, if Rich hadn't been on, I may not have swung her it.
But
yeah,
what you done dead interesting as well,
Yep.
because you had a little sneaky go to see if there was some fish there before we had to go.
Got to do it, haven't we, mate? We've got to
And
do it.
you missed a couple of bites.
I don't
Why did you miss some
on the
bites?
Slider, Jamie. How dare you?
You know what I mean? Why did you miss some bites?
Because my hook was too small. You know,
Yeah.
obviously, you can get away with it on waggler and that, this, that and the other, but when you're fishing on the bottom, the fish they're taking that bait, honestly, they're so confident in that depth of water. So I've gone on to a 14's hook.
Yeah, like proper. That's what I was getting on more than anything.
Can Rich zoom in on that?
Did you have a 16 and swapped?
No, I was on 18's,
So you're on
mate.
tiny.
It's quite a big 18's.
Right,
You know
I'm
what I
with
mean?
you,
I don't even know what it was, but it's quite a big 18s. Whereas this is, it's not a massive 14s, but it's a decent one. I think it's a Gamakatsu 226 LBB.
What?
I know what I'm talking about, mate.
I'm not gonna,
One of them ones.
So it's not being shy, is it? In
No.
every waggler situation.
No,
Using big hooks in it.
It's definitely. I mean, even for likes of carp and F1s and that as well. You know what I mean? You can get away with big hooks in that depth of water.
Yes.
I mean, look at the size of hooks that we use when we're on ledger bone, feeder and all that.
Yeah.
For them, you know what I mean? It does make a difference.
Don't be shy in putting a big one in.
No. Now, obviously, Jay, you know how much I love feeding. You could probably potentially get away with feeding a ball every single chuck, but I'm not doing because it's one of them. I don't want to get them too giddy. I want to make sure that when it goes, you know, I maximise what I'm doing. I'm catching the fish every go in, hopefully.
Yes.
So by feeding too much, you know, and the fish don't really want it, I could get potentially too many fish there, but obviously feed them up too quick as well. So I'm trying to catch sort of 2-3 fish off one ball of feed.
Yes.
The other trouble I've got as well is I want to make sure I'm not feeding to where my float ends up, because it is drifting. I'm feeding on the same spot every time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas if I fed at my float, I'll just have a massive area feeding. I don't want that. Again, we'd still catch fish, but you can see how much, even by now, it's drifted, what, a metre? Nearly a metre and a half already, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You feed in one spot and you fish around it.
Yeah,
Don't
definitely.
you? So it gives you options, doesn't it, of
Yeah.
picking them off.
It does.
Picking them off.
It does. I mean, that's the only thing I've got going against me is the wind's blowing it away from the bottom. But it doesn't really matter too much with roach, to be fair.
No.
I'm not going to let it drift too far before I bring it back, cast it in again.
With all that lead down the line, though, it's a lot more stationary than a conventional waggler would be, isn't it?
Oh, mate, yeah.
It is nice and fixed. It looks nice.
Imagine it in this wind as well, you know, with a light waggler. You
Oh,
just have
yeah.
a massive bow in your line.
You ain't catching, are you?
No,
It's just, it'll
you
be a
won't get
mess.
anywhere near it. I don't know if that's going. You reckon that's going?
I think you're catching another twig on this cast.
Could be.
It's like it's anchored, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
There are quite a few obstacles on the bottom on this. What is it? It's a clay pit. It's an old disused clay pit.
So there's like Christmas trees and
There's all
conifer
sorts
and all
in here.
sorts in it, is there? Let's have another cast.
All sorts. Big, deep abyss. That's what it's talking about as well. You cast in.
Yeah,
It's noticeable that because of all the weight you've got on a big float, it's
Yeah.
a lot more of a lob than a.
yeah. You don't want to be sort of
You're
like.
not whacking it, are you?
No, definitely don't want to whack it. And the other thing that you need to make sure, as I say, it's proper, it's tangle proof, this way of fishing, folks, but make sure you can see that slider sliding. You know what I mean? So it comes out of the water, you can see it start wobbling, and then it hits a stop knot and it settles into place. If you don't see that, you know that obviously something's happened, your bulk's tangled round,
I'm with you. If
round
it's
your line or something.
shotted straight away when it pops up, something's wrong.
Something's wrong. You know
You've got a
something's
twist
wrong.
or something.
Yeah,
You're suspending
definitely.
your bulk.
Definitely. But it's an awesome way of fishing, mate. I absolutely love it. Just, again, as you said, we just don't do enough of it. None of our matches call for this, do they?
It's
You know what I
far
mean?
more exciting for me than any pole fishing situation, this sort of thing.
Yeah. There you go.
Proper,
Isn't it?
it's fishing, isn't it? And that's it, you're being able to fish in a weird lake like this, where you've got that depth.
Yeah.
You're fishing in an area that no one else can.
No, that's it. As I
Unless
say,
they chuck a feeder, which is it's not as good.
look at the stamp of them, mate.
It's proper, isn't it?
Isn't it? You what? Go? Are you getting method,
As soon as
MBJ?
you're off, I'm on that. We're swapping.
Mate. Yeah, so just like double red maggot, you know what I mean? Because occasionally, Jay, as you'll know, because there's quite a bit of weight on there when you're feathering it, which I've not taught you through as well.
Yeah, talk about that.
The most important thing with this, with all forms of float fishing, waggler fishing, is you've got to feather it. So watch your float through the air just before it hits the water. Completely stop the line with your finger, so your bait's getting projected.
So
past
that
your float.
second bulk goes past your main bulk, isn't it? Puts it in a line.
Definitely, and that's why we use double maggot more often than not. Because if sometimes you feather it, you can ping one off, can't you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I know that I've got bait on all the time.
What
pretty much.
about
Go ahead.
clipping up with this?
Yes, if I was fishing, you know, at distance for more sort of static fish like skimmers and bream and that, I would 100% clip up, because I want to make sure I'm in the same spot every single time.
What? But you'd clip up past where you're feeding.
Yeah, so clip up, past where I'm feeding, obviously sink my line, wind down to it, and then I'd actually mark my line as well, Jay, so I knew I'm coming back to the same spot every single time.
I'm with you. So you can see that bit of white on your line within
Definitely.
a couple of rod rings every time.
Not for roach, you know what I mean? You can cast over a pretty decent area for roach, it doesn't
Yes.
really matter. But certainly for skimmers and bream, you're going to be waiting, you know, well, however long, you know, 10, 15 minutes sometimes for a bite. Yeah, you've got to be ultra accurate then. And that's when obviously you can shorten your elastics down, you know, get the maximum. So basically you're looking for something on the horizon, lining the rim of this catapult up and bringing that back to the same spot every single time.
Yeah.
And then generally, you know, you can actually weigh your balls of ground bait out, so you know how much each one is.
That's getting proper technical.
It does,
but it is that level, isn't it?
That's what we had to do, you know what I mean? But, you know, you don't need to now for just coming out and having a session on it. You don't need to be that technical.
If you used to weigh your balls.
Cheeky, stop it, Rich. You could get away with loose feed. I'm convinced you could get away with loose feed and potentially draw them up, but you know, you probably won't get the distance with maggots out there today, unfortunately. But that's the level that you can take it. You know, shorten your catapult lengths and just make sure everyone's going on the same spot every time. I feel it needs a bit more bait. To be fair,
It needs a few more balls, doesn't it?
Definitely.
A few more balls of grounding bait.
See,
But it's the same position as the pole line was on, isn't it? It's a line that you have to let develop.
Yes, definitely.
Because you're fishing at such distance, the only way you've got of introducing bait is via balls of ground bait.
Yeah.
And the only variation you can have in them is altering what feed you put in them or changing the consistency of your ground bait to make it cloudy or to put bait on the bottom, whatever else.
Yeah, definitely, mate. 100%. I mean, that you can see how much it's drifting. You weren't drifting this much before.
No, it's got up with that wind, hasn't it?
So I'm going to cast a little bit more to the left, even though I'll probably be I'd say 2 foot. Look at that little roach top there.
I love the noise. I love the noise of a stop knot going through.
Oh, when it comes through, I know.
It sounds nice, doesn't it?
When that, like, so I'll probably be like well over depth there, but that's right over where I've been putting them balls in.
Is it? It's a bit.
Yeah.
It's a foot shallower to you.
I'd say so. I'd say at least a foot shallower.
Oh, beautiful, Andrew. Beautiful.
Not bad, is it, mate? Not bad.
You're all right. You haven't lost it, have you?
But yeah, you could go like really, you know, in depth with it in this. But for this style, for play of it, you don't need to.
No, just have fun at it. Bottoming your catty out's the one though, isn't it? For maintaining.
But it's that, Jane, bringing it back to the same spot, but then picking something for the head of the catapult on the horizon. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's what you got to do. It's probably a little bit shorter than what I want to be firing balls at. I want, ideally, you know, getting them nice every time. You want to go a little bit further, but
yeah.
You know, doesn't matter. We're getting on it there.
Go on now. They know we've got cameras on, haven't they? You're getting a bite of chuck before. Got big carp.
Do you reckon carps have moved in? Do you reckon they're
carps and foot ones?
Do you reckon they're inhaling the ground bait balls in one?
No, I don't think any F1s and carp are feeding today. I think it's just a roachy day. Go on, I want a good bite to finish on. Nice big £3 skin bob.
Imagine that, mate. Arc into that big one.
So I'm amazed at how nice that is, because you've got no shot on the deck. You've literally got 6 inches of hook length on the deck, haven't you?
That's it.
And it's so lovely and stable.
Here we go. I was going then. Unless it's
it's like slow motion.
Yeah, isn't it? How good is it?
Yeah.
Every one, mate. Everyone's
nearly unmissable with the right hook and everything. It's job done, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. You know, experiment on the day with obviously the hooks, and I don't think diameters alone make a difference in that depth of water either, Jay.
No, you happily fish 0.14 even.
Oh, easy, mate. Easy.
You're gonna see him. Beautiful roach.
Did you see it like that?
Yeah. Give him a snog.
Just love it.
So, I'm happy with that. I'd say we're not here for mega in-depthy going through the two methods. It's flipping freezing. It's just nice to get bites. But say in the times that we can do it now, with Al Boris making us stay at home, having days like this, doing something different from the norm is so much more enjoyable, isn't it?
It gets your enthusiasm back, doesn't it, for it? You know what I mean? All obviously commercials, you've just gone to the same venue day in, day out, or one weekend to the next. You're sort of like, you almost get stuck in the rut kind of thing.
Stale, don't you?
And I think, like, obviously there's been benefits of this, obviously the lockdowns and that, getting out and just doing something completely different, like when we went on that little river up the road, didn't we? Things like that, folks. It's just, so mate, it takes you right back from when I first started. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just absolutely love my fishing anyway, if you all know, but this style of fishing is just, for me, can't beat it. No.
It's nice to get back to things not having to be perfect.
Yeah.
You just catch some fish and
do
something different, isn't it?
Making a homemade discordia out of a twig, some things
I did that with drop shot one.
Mate, it's amazing.
No, anyway, we have a challenge to do.
Get ready, I'm so looking forward to this challenge.
On to the next one. Thank you for watching.
Hold my tip, Jay.
Holding the tip, Andrew.
Mate.
Look, it's proper old school flick tippy. You'd never believe that was 30 metres in that little thing, was it? It might have a little bit of a
Is there one on? Is there one on? Let it go, let's see what he's like.
Go on, you got to strike.
Hey! Look at that. Look at droop on that.